Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today we're going to do a character guide on 8. He's one of the few characters in this batch I haven't already done a guide on yet. If you're looking for like Selfie and Bart's, Bart's I might have to redo because I did his a while ago. I'll maybe redo Bart's, but Selfie's should be basically the same. Selfie just has force enhancements now and she force charges, but I might redo Bart's, but 8 I've never done before, so we're going to do that one right here. So, and I've already done the Tifa guide if you want to check that one out. Obviously, she's the big popular character, so you've probably seen it already. But if you want to check out Tifa, that was an incredible video. Probably the funnest character guide I've ever made, to be honest, on Tifa. I was just blown away by the numbers I was seeing. She's a crazy character, right? So, anyways, in this video, we're going to talk about 8, which 8 is kind of cool because this is my first time ever having his full kit. I had made the comment in my summon video, like, oh yeah, maybe I'll toss a few more tickets down because I don't have 8 LD, and I got it right away. It was so cool. So it's nice to actually have him for the first time because he is a style of character I like in that he is like an evasion counter character, which I love characters like this. Very good in like the core team comps, or if you're doing like the Reno Force. So like if you're doing Reno Force, this guy can definitely slot in. And he's doing double counters, so he's going to be like how Gao effectively helps cores force time by double countering and getting basically 10% instead of 5%. 8 can essentially do the same thing, right? So very, very cool. So let's go ahead. We're going to look at his calls. Then we'll jump into the artifacts and then the spheres, right? 8's calls, there's nothing like too crazy about them. I guess the place you'd use this call is if you want, like if you say have a character like a Tifa that you just want to beef up their damage, because 8 is basically just a flat out attack character, right? So his calls, basically his 15, just does an attack. It does do an attack up, max brave up, brave and HP damage taken up for the caller. So it does some good things, right, to the individual caller. And then explosive fist, same thing. If you attack a broken target or break a target, it's going to give you a brave damage up and then an HP damage up as well. So it's got a lot of like brave and HP damage up stuff on it, which these can be good. It's only going to affect the caller though. So there are other characters where you'd probably rather still do like a Kurasame debuff, which is going to help the whole party. But this could be an okay slot in, just to add a little bit more power to like a big time damage dealer, right? So let's go ahead and let's look at 8 here. So my 8 isn't like, super high invest here. I do have the Lufenia armor. I haven't plussed it, haven't blued it. I'm force enhanced only 10 instead of 30. So obviously 8 is a character that like, I've got him enough where I can use him in whatever content I want to, but he definitely can look better than what you see in this video, so just keep that in mind, right? So let's go to artifacts next. Artifacts are pretty easy for him. You want attack 108 and his C50, because you really want to cap out on attack with this guy because he's a counter character. He's going to be attacking a lot. You want to do a lot of damage. You want to capitalize on that. So that's just going to help you get the most out of that. Obviously, attack 108 max brave 330 is always a good substitute if you can't get the C50, but attack 108 should be your highest priority here. And then on the A slot, I will talk about his spheres here. So he's a triple A sphere, right? So A spheres, there's so much you can do, right? And I always talk about, like, I don't talk about every A sphere out there just because there are so many of them. Obviously, focus on attack, brave damage, things like that. He does do a little bit of brave gains, and it does scale off of attack. So I would go with attack over physical attack. So like Raijin could be nice. It's a big fat physical attack, but you're going to get more brave gains out of just scaling up his attack. And then obviously brave damage is really good because when you're doing all those brave hits on the counters, that's going to help the damage as well. So I think some combination of brave damage and attack. Now, those of you that have watched my videos, I always talk about, especially with the A spheres, because there are so many of them, and there's a variety of ones that are decent or good enough, I try to utilize spheres that I can't use on other characters that work really well. So being that 8 is an evasion character, there are some evasion spheres out there that are actually really good, but there aren't a ton of the characters in the game that are built on evasion. But since 8 is built on evade, I went like all in on the evade spheres. So 8's own sphere is actually really good for himself. And so obviously if you're getting 8 and you're, powering him up to use him on your team, you're going to purple the EX, so you will have access to this, right? So 20% attack up. That is the highest attack up percentage you can get in the game on an A sphere. So he's got it. You just have to evade, right? So if you're using 8 how you're supposed to, you're going to want to use him in fights with aggressive enemies, get attacked a lot. He does lock as well, so he's going to get attacked a lot because of the lock, even on single target. He's going to be evading a lot against aggressive enemies, so at 20% up is awesome. Now, this is a not stackable sphere, so you can only put one 8 sphere on. However, the refined 8 sphere is considered a different sphere than the full version one. Okay, I talked about this in a different video when I put a couple of Freya HP up spheres on a character that really wanted HP. You can do the same thing here. So I can put the refined 8, which is still an 8% attack, which is solid. Now, sure, if I really like 8, I'll just do a full refined, like 10 to 15% attack is going to be better. But since I have like all of these evasion spheres I'm not going to use, I'm like, let's just toss them on 8, right? So now between those two, I'm getting 28% attack when he dodges, which is pretty good. And then Cater Sphere, so full type 0 set here. When evading, you get Int, Brave, and Attack. So it's a smaller attack up, but I just put on there because it was an evade with an attack. Now, Cater by no means is like a top tier A sphere for him. You could probably go with something like Jack, which is Brave, Damage, and Attack, or go with a 15% attack up. But I do honestly think 8's full sphere here is probably one of his best in slots, just because he will activate it a lot, and you get a lot of 20% attack. Like, that's a chunk, right? That's a chunk of attack. So, with that, let's go ahead and go into the showcase here. The thing with 8, he's super darn easy to play. Let me just back out all this. So we are going to run the Spiritus fight here just to showcase him. Obviously, because he's featured here, he's going to be built for it. His numbers will look a little bit better. But he's super easy to play. All you really need to do is just open up with his 35, because that's the only buff he doesn't start with. So 8's got a few buffs at quest start here. I'll talk about those buffs as we go through the fight. But I'm going to open up with his 35, which is called Last Stand Rush. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, and you can see a lot of Brave hits. You know, 200k, not crazy damn. I mean, here's the thing. After looking at Tifa, like, everybody feels like they hit like a feather, right? So we'll just throw that out there. We'll wall here. But let's talk about his 35. So you saw it did, you know, pretty basic standard attack there. But it gives him a buff called Last Stand. And he does not get this at quest start. So it is good to open with that, so that you get that Last Stand buff. And then after you do that, he's got all of the buffs. So then it's basically you're just upkeeping his really important ones, which I will be talking about, right? Let's go on Rapture here. Get some launchity launches going on. So the Last Stand buff gives him an attack and max Brave up, a pretty sizable 170%. And then Brave and HP damage taken up 40%. Very, very good, right? So it's really going to help him do more damage. So you do want that Last Stand buff up right away. And then so what we'll do is we'll get into Luna Freya here. And Luna Freya, we're going to go ahead and throw the Quick Prayer down on him so we can just get him a few turns. Show off a couple of attacks. Obviously, I want the enemy to attack so we can see his countering and stuff as well. But we'll kind of just get things rolling here with that. Let's go ahead and pop in LD. So we'll have Heavy Prayer. So now with like Heavy Prayer on him, his numbers should be looking a little bit better. And now we have his Last Stand buff as well. Go ahead and attack through here a couple times. Sounds good. Luna Freya is going to grab a couple turns. Okay, and then we'll just go ahead and kind of speed through. Sure, let's BT, whatever. I'm not going to worry about going into a Force Time here. I did think about maybe showcasing him with like a Core Force Time, because that's where I think that's the best Force Time he's built for, is like Core or Reno. But really, I don't need to like make the video longer than it needs to be, right? Like, let's just talk about how to play 8. You can go ahead and try him in a Force Time if you want to. Typically, unless the character themselves are the Force character, I usually don't worry about showcasing them in a Force Time. So sure, let's go ahead and just pop some attacks here, and let's get to 8's turn. Okay, and I'll just cancel it. I don't know why I use Rapture, because it's just going to make the fight take longer. Whatever, you know, it's just habits, right? Like, you want to do all the damage. We got to use our good habits, right? All right, so we'll kind of pop through here. And what I think we'll do is after this, there really isn't a set rotation that you really need to use them. So you kind of use the skills at will. So I'm just going to explain how they work. You kind of decide how you want to use them, right? One thing that will happen is he does have this plus attack called Lightspeed Jab. You really only want to worry about that if you get the plus version. You'll get the plus version of that. It comes from his Quick Bolt buff and his Last Stand buff. And it has to be after his LD. So once we use the LD, we'll look at that Lightspeed Jab. But for now, you really can just spam his 15 and 35 and his other skills, right? So we use Last Stand Rush. Let's look at Quick Bolt here. Let's just drop that down. Get the little launch with it there. Okay, so what the 15 did, it's just a Brave Gain, big attack, and then he gets the Quick Bolt buff. So we had this at quest start. his quick bolt buff is an attack up, max brave up, and speed up. Very basic. So his 15 is like as basic as it gets. Just like a brave gain attack gives him a super basic buff. So really the 15 is never a button you feel like you have to press. It's usually a filler button. And if you do notice quick bolt about to drop off, then sure, you definitely want to refresh that, right? Luna Freya, why did quick prayer not work? Did I not quick prayer him? I could have sworn I quick prayed him. Am I crazy? Oh, his buff slots are full. No wonder. Okay, so we can't get quick prayer. His buff slots are too full. We went too crazy. I'm like, why? What's going on here? Yeah, we filled up all the buff slots, so that's fine. He won't have the quick prayer, whatever. We'll just get to his turn when we get to it here. That's funny. I'm so used to, I never run team comps where I really have to worry about buff slots, so that's kind of like an afterthought for me, right? It's very common to worry about debuff slots. Like, those are very easy to fill up, right? All right, so here we go. We got an attack. So he did one counter, and then he gets 2 counters. So he gets double counters here. I will talk about those when I talk about the skills that they come from. But by default, he'll have the buffs up he needs. So he's basically, when he's got his buffs up, he's 100% evasion, and he double counters. One counter is for him getting attacked. The other one is for him evading, right? All right, so let's go ahead and let's just, we'll just drain heal here. We'll just skip the launch. All right, so we did the 15 and we did the 35. And we've got the EX, so let's do Phantom Rush. This is one of his more important attacks, so let's go ahead and use it. See what kind of damage we get here. Okay, so over a mil. I mean, that was with a launch, but we didn't have any, launch damage with it. And there we go. There's another dodge counter. Now he's going to go crazy and do 2 more attacks. So the thing with 8 that you have to keep in mind, when you see his actual attack numbers and they don't blow you away, you have to remember you have to factor in all of the counter damage. So when you actually look at his per turn damage, if you're against a really aggressive enemy, his per turn damage actually will compensate to a very high level damage dealer if you're fighting aggressive enemies that are attacking a lot, because the more counters you get, technically he has a higher ceiling than, say, Tifa, because if the enemies are attacking nonstop, you can get more damage per turn than Tifa. I know it sounds crazy, but that's going to depend on having a lot of enemies and them attacking a lot, right? But all of these counter characters have that in their pocket, right? They all have higher ceilings because as long as the enemies are attacking, you can do more damage per turn. All right, let's go ahead and just drop just get to 8's next turn here. Next, we'll drop the LD, and I think that's basically it already, right? He's got his AA, which just does some basic buffs and extends his buffs by 2 turns. Nothing too crazy there, right? Okay. So, one more thing I wanted to mention. I'm trying to remember on what it was on. We'll just keep going here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the LD. Oh, let me finish talking about the EX. We didn't even go through the whole EX, right? All right, so the EX. Brave gain, Brave HP attack, as we saw there. But he gets the Phantom Rush buff from this. So Phantom Rush buff is very, very important. Because this is what gives him 100% evasion. Okay, and then basically the Phantom Brush gives him the 100% evasion, and then that also triggers his evade counter. So that is the Break Sight Blow counter. And the Break Sight Blow, both of his counters, which is really nice, is they ignore defense. So that's awesome because you're going to be getting good Brave damage numbers out of that. And then they both do defense downs on the enemy, provided that they are broken or you break them on attack. Now this boss doesn't show that very well because this boss can't be broken, but if you break a target or attack a broken target with a counter, which is going to happen a lot in a normal fight, he's putting a defense down on the enemies, which is really good, right? Now let's go ahead. So we'll use the AA. So once again, just extends his buffs, gives him some buffs, stuff like that, pretty basic. We'll just ignore that phone call. We'll go ahead and finish the video, and then I'll call my wife back right after this, right? We'll get there. All right, so let's go ahead and do the LD, Explosive Fist. Alright, so what we're going to get on this is he gets a very important buff called Defense, and you don't want the defense to fall off, okay? It's going to do a couple of really nice things, and it also locks the enemy. So the enemy there you see has an 8-turn lock, but the defense buff super important. So what this buff does, it gives him an attack up, overflow stolen, some brave gains up, things like that. But if you are attacking a broken target or you break the target, it does additional buffs, brave damage up and additional HP damage up. But the big thing with this defense buff is any buffs he grants himself get 2 turns added onto it, which is huge because when you're getting that Phantom Rush, instead of going up for 4 turns, it's now going up for 6 turns. With that being a 6-turn buff on an EX, he's going to be able to, he's going to recharge his EX before it runs out. So literally you have 100% upkeep on his evasion and his counters. So that's what makes him crazy now, is that he basically won't be able to get hit. Now, enemies these days do attacks that can't be evaded, so you do have to watch out for that when you're looking at the stats, right? But that's very good. And then the defense buff is what gives him his other counter, and he gets that counter just for being attacked, right? And then he also gets last stand from this, where if you have more than 50% HP, he'll always have 1 HP left, right? So let's go ahead, let's watch another dodge counter here. Once again, you see the enemy's locked now, so he is targeting 8. So he can do whatever he wants. 8's going to 100% evade, okay? And then break sight blow, this is for evading, okay? So nice damage, 300k. Counter rush is for being attacked, this is from the LD. Okay, and then, yeah, so overall, he did like 560k damage on that counter, not to mention what he's doing on his actual on turn, right? So anyways, guys, there you go. That's 8. Pretty simple, pretty easy to use. If you're lacking an evade counter tank, like, he's definitely not a bad character to pick up. He's on the banner with Tifa, so you might be summoned in there anyways. Maybe you picked him up, but he is a very fun character. If you like defense comps and these counter characters, he definitely can help get you by. He works really well in this fight because this boss will keep brave and he can't be broken. So he's a great character to lock on, and when the boss tries to dump their HP, he'll just dodge it, right? So anyways, there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.